Welcome, everybody. My name is Tom Woodford, and I am the college counselor with Hilliard City Schools. Today, we're going to talk about the college application process for our current juniors. It is a busy time right now in the month of April as we look forward to the application season starting in August. So it is important that we all understand what is needed and what are the things that students should be doing right now. And so if you were not able to make our face-to-face meeting, this is something that can help you through that. And so we will go ahead and get started. So let's talk about why we are here today, okay? It is important that my goal is to help everybody understand the process through this application season, to know the important terms. We're going to talk about ACT and SAT scores. Should excuse me, should we send them? Should we apply and test optional? To know what the application looks like and to help create a plan. And then ultimately to help reduce the stress. As I was speaking to a current senior this fall, she just said to me, "This is terrifying." And so hopefully through this video, through various meetings, that this will be less stressful for the student and the family. So it's important to understand that senior year is not a recreational activity. Yes, in the fall, we will be sending transcripts for students, but even as students get admitted, nothing is final until those colleges receive the final transcript. So it's important to understand that part of the application process is are those senior grades, final grades, and the classes that students are taking while they're in high school, and also grades. Many colleges are going to ask for a mid-year report, so they're going to want to see grades of students through January. And then again, nothing is final until the final transcript is sent to those colleges, because they do have the right to withdraw any kind of acceptance, even though students might have been accepted in January or February. If things change second semester of the senior year, colleges have the right to change those decisions. So it is that is why we have to reinforce that senior year is not a recreational activity. So let's look at ACT and SAT dates. As we look at the ACT right now in the month of April, as we look forward, we've got a June 8th and a July 13th. There will be an early September test and a late October test. When we look at the SAT, there's a May 4th and a June 1st test. There's going to be one in late August, early October, and early November. So it's important to understand what tests are coming and when those are. And so we want to create a testing plan. And it's important that we look at that testing plan and we work backwards by looking at colleges' application deadlines for fall. A very common deadline is November 1st. There are some schools that offer early deadlines in the month of October. And so by looking at that, it's important to know that, okay, what tests can my students take in the fall of their senior year that are still going to meet all of those deadlines? So it's important. So when we create this schedule, we work backwards. So the last ACT that students can use that's going to meet all of the early deadlines will be the September test of the ACT. For the SAT, the August test is the last test that will meet all of the early deadlines. And so there is an early October SAT. That one may or may not get to all of the colleges by the 1st of November, but there's no way those scores will get to the colleges that have an early or middle October deadline. So we want to look at those testing dates for the fall and work backwards to July and June as well. So when we make that schedule, we can send those scores. So it's also important that we understand that if a student decides to send their scores, scores can only be sent by the student or the student's parents through the testing agency, the College Board or the ACT, directly to those colleges. Hilliard City Schools, all high schools do not have the availability to send test scores to colleges. So that is important to understand, that if a student's going to apply using test scores, they must send their test scores from the testing agency to those colleges. And you cannot expect your high school to send them. Colleges will only accept them directly from the testing agency. So test optional. There's over 1,900 colleges that are currently test optional all over the country. And so many colleges may still need test scores for merit scholarships. There might be some programs or majors like nursing that the college might be test optional, but to apply to the School of Nursing at said schools, they may still need to have an ACT or an SAT score. A website that will give a list of all of the test optional colleges is at fairtest.org. They keep this pretty updated as colleges this spring are deciding on changing that policy or not. And so they do a very good job of keeping that list there. So what does applying to colleges test optional mean? Test optional means that students do not have to apply to colleges with those scores. And so what they're saying is if a student's test scores do not seem to match a student's academic ability, then they can choose to apply to those colleges test optional. Students may choose to apply to some colleges with test scores and may choose to apply to other colleges without test scores. A perfect example is if a student has a 28 and they want to apply to Ohio State. Ohio State, their middle 50% is a 28 to 32. I would say let's go ahead and apply with test scores. If they're applying to Bowling Green or Ohio Wesleyan, absolutely, let's apply with that 28. If they're applying to Case Western, with their average ACT scores of 32 to 34, I would say that we would probably want to apply without test scores there. Or if we're applying to a college, a state school in the state of California, those colleges are test blind, which means they're not allowed to use test scores. So students will have the choice to apply to various colleges, and then they have the opportunity to apply with test scores or not with scores to each of those schools. There are many colleges out there. Clemson is famous for this. They use an SSAR, as this is a self-reporting academic plan for students. So it is a third party that will have students self-report their test scores or even their high school transcript. If a student is going to apply to Clemson, even though we as the high school counselors will send the high school transcript. A place like Clemson will still require students to self-report their high school transcript as well as their ACT and SAT scores. So if you see that, please make sure that students follow through on doing that through this process. Important terms. Early decision. Only 18% of the colleges out there offer this as an application plan. Early decision is when a student is committing to that school, and if they get admitted, that's where they're going. It is binding, and so by rule, students would need to withdraw their application from all of the other colleges if they would get accepted to their ED school. Early action is not binding. It is not binding by the school or the student. It is just an early deadline. Students can apply to as many schools as they would like to early action. When students are applying to an early decision school, they can only apply to one school early decision. Scholarship deadlines. A lot of early action schools use that same deadline as their scholarship deadline. So they have to apply to those colleges by that deadline to have an opportunity to earn any of their merit scholarships. The regular application deadline is usually later, January 1st, February 1st for a place like Ohio State. Students can still apply over the holidays. They can still get into Ohio State, but Ohio State's early action and scholarship deadline is the 1st of November. So they can still get in, but they cannot earn any merit scholarships if they apply after the early action scholarship deadline. So it's important that we understand these terms because colleges will offer different application types that could be tied to different deadlines. Super scoring. It's important to ask this question. I know a lot of the highly selective schools will super score test scores, which means if a student takes the ACT 3 times, and let's say they score a 26, a 26, and a 27, a school that does not super score, they will always use their highest composite. So they will have a 27. But a school like Miami of Ohio, they super score. So they will take the highest reading from one test, the highest English, highest science, and highest math, which means their super score could be a 28 or a 29. That changes everything for admission as well as opportunities for scholarships. The common application, there's over 1,000 schools that use this now. This one application, you can go to this application at commonapp.org. A lot of students will be using this as their primary application. And then the member page is the specific questions for each college. And as students use Common App, they will choose all of the colleges they plan to apply to inside of the Common App. And then the member page will give a list of each of those schools, and each of those schools will have their own questions specific to them. So more terms, after students have applied, they start to hear back from schools. They're going to hear admitted. That is great news. Students have till May 1st to make a final decision on where they would like to go. Many students will see deferred. Deferred means that their application will be evaluated again after the regular applications have all been read. So it's kind of a maybe. We're going to reread your application later. Some students might hear waitlisted. Waitlisted means maybe if there's room. So students have to tell those colleges, yes, keep me on your wait list, or you can take me off of that wait list. And if students stay on a wait list, colleges might not get back to them till the end of May, sometime in June, if they have space available at their colleges. If they do have space available, then they will go to their wait list. And then many students, especially if you're applying to highly selective schools, you're going to see the word denied. Denied means, unfortunately, you did not get into that school. That is going to happen if you apply to highly selective universities. When you look at admit rates of 4%, 5%, 6%, you know, those type of colleges deny students who are national merit finalists, valedictorians, perfect ACT and SAT students. That is going to happen. And so just be ready for that. If that happens, let's move our focus to the schools that students have been admitted to. College visits. It's very important that students are going on these. Students and parents can schedule these by going to a school's website. Colleges are going to track students when they have been on campus. And it's important that they do that because this also shows a demonstrated interest in that school. Some of the private schools out there demonstrated interest as part of the admissions process. And so they need to see that students are really interested in them. And they do that by saying how many times have they had a contact with that student. Financial aid. So the free application for federal student aid that can be found on the federal student aid at studentaid.gov. That will go live on October 1st, 2024 for next year's seniors. Every year, every summer, I get rising senior parents email me saying, I have filled out the FAFSA, and I have to tell them they've filled out the wrong form. Remember, your child's going to graduate in 2025, so you will fill out the 25-26 FAFSA. There were major changes this year. I'm sure you've heard about them. There's been all kinds of delays. Hopefully, all of that is being worked through, so next year will be so much smoother. But one way that it's different is on October 1st, students can begin to fill out their portion of the FAFSA, which only takes about 15 or 20 minutes. Then they have to invite their parents because they are the contributors of the financial information. And so students must do that first, and then that will allow parents to be able to complete the rest of that document. Parents will be using financial information from 2023. A lot of private schools, a lot of schools on the East Coast use a second document called the CSS profile. This is a form that can be found on the College Board website. If you see this, please do not skip this. Colleges still will accept the FAFSA, but the colleges and universities that require the CSS profile, students must fill this out as well. It is a second document that they will use to create the financial aid package. We will offer a financial aid meeting in the last week of September to get our students and parents prepared for that October 1st date. And there are multiple scholarship deadlines or websites out there as well that students can look at. We will be hosting all of our local scholarships in our SchoolLinks account, and students can begin to see them through late fall, early December is when those start to come in. A place like the Columbus Foundation offers a lot of local scholarships for kids who live in Franklin County. And then, of course, scholarships.com, fastweb.com are two websites that host scholarship applications for students all over the country. Financial aid terms. Students and parents will be going to studentaid.gov to begin the FAFSA. When it's all complete, the federal government runs their calculation. Students will get a student aid index. This is also the information that is sent to the colleges, so colleges can create the financial aid packages from all of the information from the student aid index. On every school's website is a thing called the net price calculator. This is where students and parents can get a general idea of what the true cost might be at that school. It must be within 2 clicks of the homepage. And so that's something students and parents can do. I want to talk briefly about student loans. There's 2 different types of student loans that are federal loans. One is a subsidized loan and one is an unsubsidized loan. I know that this information is covered in a lot of the financial lit courses here in Hilliard. But if a student qualifies for both of these, it's important that they use the subsidized loan first. That is the loan that the federal government pays the interest while students are in college. Paying back this loan, it is deferred for 6 months after they graduate. But the most important piece here is that the interest is paid by the federal government. The unsubsidized loan can still be deferred until 6 months after they graduate, but it's important to understand here that as students borrow using an unsubsidized loan, that interest will begin in that moment. And so if they borrow money, they will be having to pay back much more because the interest is going to accrue while they are in school. And then PLUS loan. PLUS loan is the federal parent loan, and usually the interest rate is much lower, it's much cheaper. Right now it's around 6.5%, but it is usually much lower than going to a bank and getting a private loan that way. So how do students apply to college? There's 4 different types of application. One is the Common App. Again, over 1,000 colleges use this one application. Most of our students are going to use this application. A lot of colleges may have their own application. Students can use that as well. Some schools like Ohio University, they use Common App and they have their own application. Colleges only want students to fill out one of them, not both. One is not better than the other. Whichever one makes it easier for the student. There is a universal application. I have never seen it. Only 50 colleges use that. All 50 colleges that use the universal app also use the common application. And then finally, the newest application of all these is the Coalition app. It's been around for about 5 or 6 years now. It's up to over 400 colleges are using this at this time. There were some issues with this application last year. And so if students have a choice, I would stick with the Common App. I will host Common App camps in August and in early September. So when I send out my college news email in around August 1st or August 2nd, there will be a Sign Up Genius there for students to be able to sign up for Common App camps. These are 90-minute sessions. I'll help students begin that application, create their account. They will choose the colleges they want to apply to. We will link or match Common App to school links. We will request their letters of recommendation in school links as well. And they will also request their high school transcripts and school links. We will take care of all that. Then it will be an actual work session, and I'll help them through that process at that time. Common App, this is what it looks like. So if you go to commonapp.org, all students will click on the first year icon there, and then they will create an account with their email address and their password. I advise all students to put these in their phone. Notice I said students, this should never be created by parents. This should never be done by parents. This is a student's application, and they should be doing this. An issue I have every year as I sit down with students and I ask them to log on to their Common App. I get a couple students every year that can't do that. They have to call mom or text mom to get the email and the password. Automatically, that's sending up red flags to me that the student is not filling out the application. That means we are falsifying a document, and that is not the direction that we would like to go here. So it's important that we understand this is a student's process, and the student should have all of this information all of the time. When they create this application and they create the student account, the Common App is made up of 5 tabs. The first tab is the dashboard. After they put colleges in there, by the 4th tab, the college search, this is where students and parents can look at each college and look at each of the deadlines that are needed and what is required and what is limited in terms of letters of recommendation and things like that for each school. Under My Colleges, this is where students will find specific questions for each college, and this is where students will submit the Common App for each college separately. There will be a fee that is paid also separately for each one of these. And then the 3rd tab, the Common App tab, is the body of this application. It's made up of 6 sections: the profile, family, education, testing, activities, and writing. As students finish each section, they get a green check mark that will tell them that they have completed that area. So Common App and school links, it's important that students match these two. We need these 2 systems to talk to each other. Students will request letters of recommendation from their teachers in school links. Okay. If students want to request letters of recommendation from non-Hilliard teachers, they will need to request them inside of the Common application. Many colleges like Ohio State will limit the number of letters of recommendation. Students do not need to request any. Ohio State does not require any letters of rec, but if students want to submit them, they only allow 1. They only allow 1 letter of recommendation. They want that to come from a teacher. The essay prompts, these are the essay prompts from last year. The updated essay prompts should be out very soon. As soon as I get them, I'll make sure that we send those out. Students only need to do 1 of these, and it's important that they meet the word limit. It's a maximum of 650 words. And so when they go to copy and paste their essay into the Common App, if it's longer than 650 words, they will not be able to submit them. There are some additional essay prompts. Again, I have not seen, but over the last few years, Common App has offered a COVID essay. This is optional, where students can talk about any family circumstances or health and well-being and safety of the family through COVID and things like that, that they can be able to talk about how they worked through that time, maybe even what they found out about themselves during that time as well. So step one in this process, students need to create their Common App account. Step two, they need to select colleges that they want to apply to by using Common App. Step three, students must link Common App to School Links, so these two systems are speaking to each other. Step four, students will request letters of recommendation through School Links. Okay. And then all transcripts are sent through School Links as well as letters of recommendation. Okay. And then students will complete, pay for, and submit their Common App inside Common App. And then step five, after students apply, they will get a confirmation email from those colleges. Students will be also given instructions to create their own student account at each of those colleges. And that's where students will be able to see what documents they have, what documents are still missing. That's where students will also find out if they've been admitted. That's where students will also find their financial aid package. So it's important that they create these student accounts at each of these schools and they keep their username and password for each of them. So what should everyone expect from the high school counselor? The high school counselor will complete the counselor pages inside of School Links. They will submit the high school transcripts. They will write a letter of recommendation only if it's needed, only if a student comes and speaks to them and requests that from them. If they need a letter of recommendation from the counselor or the teachers, they should always ask them and give them 2 or 3 weeks time to complete all of those steps. Counselors will send the high school transcripts after the first 2 full weeks of school, once all the schedule changes have been done. On the current transcript, we also put the current schedule for our students. We want to make sure those are up to date. And then students request transcripts inside School Links. What to expect from those colleges? Colleges will update the student accounts every 2 weeks, so students can monitor that they have their test scores, they have their transcript, they have their application, they have everything they need. If anything is missing, it will tell them in that university portal. If there's any kind of question, they can always see their high school counselors or always see me. And decisions will be updated inside those student accounts. So what can students and families expect from me? I will continue to offer opportunities to host meetings for students and families. I will hold large events, application events, and financial aid events throughout the fall. I will host Common App camps. And if a student or parent has any questions, that's why I'm here. One of the highlights with my job is I get to meet with students and families every day and talk to them about this process, talk to them about the opportunities and different directions that they can go. So feel free to schedule those with me as well. So what to expect from parents, and I've touched on this briefly already. Let your child fill out the applications. If someone needs to contact the college, it needs to come from the student and not the parents. Please attend to my meetings in the fall and understand what's going on. Be ready to help, but do not take over. I'm going to talk to your students about making sure the parents are up to date on what's going on. They have to communicate with you so you are all knowing of what's happening. And please edit the application, edit the essays, and help in that sense. But it's important that students are filling out their own applications. And then definitely attend the FAFSA meeting in the last week of October. Questions to ask. I've sent these out a number of times. All students and parents need to go and visit these schools and ask questions. Parents might ask a lot of questions about campus safety and security and things like that. Students, that is okay for them to do. It's important to know that when they drop you off at whatever college, that they know that you're going to be safe there. But you as a student want to understand what kind of internships and co-op opportunities, where do I go to find out about study abroad and things like that. All right. And if a student is currently taking dual credits, they're active in the College Credit Plus program, you want to ask questions like, do you accept dual credit? Okay. Social media, I'd be careful with that. If colleges ask students to follow them on Instagram and Facebook, then they can also see what students are going to post. And so we also want to make sure that what students are posting, just like with various employers, a lot of colleges are monitoring what students are posting on social media. So what should students be doing between now and August 1st? They need to be coming up with a list of colleges they want to apply to. They need to visit those schools. They need to know the deadlines and the timelines of each of those schools. Start to figure out, am I applying with test scores? Am I applying without test scores? And then create an application schedule and a plan so they can submit the application at least 2 weeks before the application deadline. Is this process fair? I guess it all depends on who you ask. I'm surprised every year of kids who do get in. I'm surprised every year of kids who don't get into various schools. Colleges are looking for institutional needs. Some of those needs might be special talents. Special talents could be athletics, could be playing any kind of instrument, could be a strong math student, a strong writer, and things like that. So we don't know what those institutional needs are. Many times those might be geographic as well. Students or colleges want to bring in students from all over the country and from all over the world. And so those are institutional needs that we don't have any type of control over, but they are a part of this process. But what can students control? They can control meeting all of the deadlines, taking challenging courses, especially in that senior year, volunteering, having service, for the most part, their grades, being active in different clubs, different organizations, sports teams, taking on leadership roles. The essay, does the essay really tell their story? And they also control demonstrated interest. Have they visited that school? Have they met those folks at different college fairs or when they came to the high school to visit? All right, I would encourage students to create a college central, someplace at home that when a student is sitting there, parents know that they are working on their applications and their essays. It's also a place where you can keep your folder and keep all of the information from each of those schools as well. If students or parents need to contact me, feel free to do that by email. You can follow me on X at Woodford_Tom. You can listen to this on a podcast as well, but feel free to reach out if you have any questions at all, and I would love to help. Have a great day and enjoy spring and summer. Bye-bye.